Good morning, almost noontime here on a Thursday. Um, Here I sit in my nice, fancy studio. So, uh, I've been making a little series about how to raise your kids to be responsible adults, and I'm trying to have an underlying theme there. I don't know if any of y'all picked up on it, but the underlying theme of how to raise your kids to be responsible adults um, isn't really 100% laser focusing on your kids. That is usually a mistake. If you, I'm trying to center it around intentionally you as a parent. It starts with you. And if you want your kids to be a responsible, loving, kind, generous adult prepared for adulthood and prepared for life on their own, then it starts with you. You have to be that person. It doesn't matter if if you're 40 and you have teenagers, it's never too late to change. It's possible if you really muck things up with a certain child that things can't be mended by the time they're that old, but you'd really have to muck it up. And I think even so, you need to, if you come to the realization that you need to make some changes in your personality and changes in your behaviors. I don't know if a person can really change their personality. I think you can. Um, you got to work within the parameters of who God made you, of course. But there can be negative things about your personality that you can either encourage or discourage. And hopefully, if you have some undesirable personality traits, you don't just, you know, you could just say this is how God made me and that's that and quit trying. And a lot of people do that, and that's okay. But if you want to grow as a person, that's um, you need to be humble and acknowledge, at least to yourself, the personality traits that are undesirable, and then try to weed them out. Try to tone them down. Try to amp up your good personality traits. Um, if you just want to be a grumpy old curmudgeon and live alone, don't bother. But um, if you want to better yourself and in so doing better the people around you and help to lead them, because as a parent, you're usually going to be better as far as um, setting up an example of how to live and how to behave and how to do things and how to be responsible. It's probably always going to work better to lead by example with your children than to push your children. There are certain instances in your life where your child needs to be pushed. They need to be pushed out of their comfort zone. Now, I truly think I'm not saying mothers can't do it. Mothers can do it if they are aware of the need. But I truly think that is the role God designed for a responsible husband leading his family. Because what I see is mom's instincts is usually to protect. It's not a bad instinct. That's great and it's wonderful and it's good. To protect and to make things smooth for their children and to make things nice for their children and to try to avoid all difficulties for their children and want to fix their favorite foods and all kinds of things like that. Okay, it's like learn how to ride a bike. If they fall or get hurt really bad, mom's instinct is often to tell them to not ride the bike again because you got hurt really bad and you're going to get hurt again, and why would you do it? And dad's like, counterbalances that. And so you need the balance. So a good father is going to push their children like, oh, you almost had it, try that again. Go on, get ahead, get up on there and try again. Even if you got hurt, it's okay. Push your children out of their comfort zone. But this kind of thing's not really what I'm talking about. That's just certain skills and stuff that you learn as far as being pushed. Sometimes it's good to push your kids to learn uncomfortable, to get into an uncomfortable situation and overcome it. But as far as just modeling life and how to live and how to be that person that's a good person and responsible, that should never be pushed from behind. It's going to be counterproductive because you're going to push your children um, into things that you don't do. You're not responsible. Possibly maybe you're lazy, but you harp on your kids all the time, and you're trying to push them, push them, push them to be better. It might work on some kids, but I would say um, if they don't see you trying, it doesn't mean that you don't have to, as a parent, perfect the things that you want your children to do for them to model your behavior. But your children are going to need to see you um, doing your best, giving it your all to be the kind of person you want them to grow into. And hopefully with that example, you're and you can set up your life to where your kids don't have to start where you started. That should be the goal of every parent. Not having a child born with a silver spoon in his mouth, but as far as there's certain things in life where you're always going to have to experience before you learn. But if your children see you handle adversity with grace and humbleness and strength and love and kindness and forgiveness, then when they first encounter adversity in their lives, it is going to be easier for them to overcome because they saw the pattern of how to do it. If you always see a bad pattern modeled by your parents, doesn't mean that you can't learn to overcome as a child. But if you never saw anybody model the right way, or very rarely saw them model the right way, and you mostly just saw your parents model the wrong behavior and the wrong response, then it's going to be you have a mountain to overcome now, because you have to figure out how to do it on your own. You have to figure out how to handle the adversity on your own. So the absolute best way to raise your kids to be responsible adults is to first model it in yourself. And you're never too old to learn. Maybe your kids are grown and out of the house before you grow up. But before you, maybe not grow up, that might be a bad, way to say it, but before you come to terms with yourself and realize that you have things you still need to work on. You have things that you have mismanaged all your life, like behavior, and maybe you have your own trauma response to certain things, and you've done it wrong all your life. And maybe you mishandled your children all your life. It doesn't mean they don't love you, but maybe you didn't do things the way you wished you would have. Well, it's never too late to work on you. But the wrong thing to do in that situation, if you are older and your kids would be married, and then you would suddenly, you'd come to a kind of self-awakening, and you'd realize the things that you did wrong, and you want to make amends. And so you start meddling in your children's life, trying to, even though they might be doing what you modeled, all of a sudden you're trying to change them, because you're coming from a good place, because you don't want them to go through what you did. You want to change them sooner so they don't have to be in their mid-50s or maybe 60 before they realize the error. And then you start correcting your adult children now, as far as how they're raising their kids and stuff, and that's never going to go well. So as much as it would maybe pain you, you would have to work on you first. And those things that you have come to realize are not a good part of you, work on yourself, overcome those things, and just start modeling good behavior. And maybe not everyone will notice, but somebody will. And the people who do notice, it's going to make a difference in their life. So obviously it'd be better to not be in that situation, and you want to have an awareness of this kind of thing before you start having children, or at least when they're very young, and work on yourself first. Work on yourself first. Point out your own deficiencies and try to overcome those before you point them out in your spouse or your children. And just constantly work on bettering yourself and setting the example and showing just by living life. You don't have to teach a lesson. The best lesson you can teach a child is for them to see you as their parent behave a certain way over and over. That's the best lesson they can ever learn. And there's nothing that will trump that, not a thing. There's no teacher in school, there's no program they can follow that is going to impact them the way you, as the mother or father, is going to impact their life. So, in all these things, be humble, be kind, patient, self-sacrificing, loving, and gentle. These will lead you into a better way of parenting and better relationships with your children and better relationships with your spouse. Possibly even a better relationship with your Lord, if you believe. I want to leave you all with that. Hope you all have a great and God blessed day. See you in the next one.